What's up, boys? Welcome back to another trade recap. Today, I made almost $1,700, which is a pretty significant win considering it wipes out all of my losses from last month and pretty much puts me back on a clean slate. And yeah, it was a good trade. It was kind of interesting. So, without further ado, let me walk you guys through it. So, coming into today, the very first thing that I did was obviously I marked out all of my draws on liquidity. I saw that we had a bunch to the upside and the downside. However, right off of market open, we made a bearish 5-minute SMT with ES right here and sold off. And we significantly sold off on Nasdaq. You can see right here on ES at 840, we had just swept this first low, but on Nasdaq at 840, we were already in this 1 hour gap. The other big thing that I noticed was on ES, we had equal highs up here. You can see these. That was a pretty strong draw. However, we never ended up getting a reversal back to the upside, so I disregarded those highs. But yeah. Today's entry was pretty normal. You can see we had the liquidity sweep, which was the 5-minute SMT, and then we had Nasdaq as the leading index. And by the time I entered the trade down here, Nasdaq had already swept out all of this liquidity. But you might be thinking, well, why would you take a trade when there's no draws on liquidity? And the answer to that is liquidity doesn't always have to be highs and lows. Sometimes it can be imbalances, specifically 1 hour imbalances, 4 hour imbalances, and pretty big price ranges. You can see right here, whenever we made this move right here, let me get my brush. This move up was pretty swift and it was pretty fast, right? Which created a big 1 hour imbalance. And usually what price does is it moves really swiftly back to the downside. And today was an absolutely perfect example of that. Market opened, we had a 5-minute SMT, and we ended up completely ripping through this 1 hour gap. And I maybe should have extended some take profits down to like this low or this gap down here, but I had already reached my profit target for the day, and I kind of just I didn't feel like risking a lot more money. I was happy with the $1,600 win, almost $1,700, and yeah, it was pretty good. But now that I've gone over my liquidity and my reasoning for trading in that direction, which is obviously this big gap, I'm going to go over how I entered. So price obviously ripped down and gave us 2 bullish candles, which is not a whole lot of market structure to play off of. But then right around 8:45, we had this little move up, which was a 5-minute retrace. And you can see not on Nasdaq, but on ES, the retrace. Hold on, let me pull it up. On ES, this was the same retrace that was in alignment with Nasdaq. This retrace reached our equilibrium. If I mark it out for y'all, here you go. Equilibrium, boom, we touch it. Perfect retrace. Couldn't ask for more. The only thing that I was waiting on from this point was confirmation to the downside from ES, especially from ES, because ES was more bullish and ES still had these equal highs up here that I was worried about. And it took us, I was kind of worried, it took us a bit to inverse this gap, but we eventually did off of this absolutely massive candle right here. And once we did that, I went over to Nasdaq and I entered on Nasdaq, which actually had a break of structure off that same candle. The reason why I entered on Nasdaq instead of ES, even though I used ES for my confluences, was that Nasdaq was already in this 1 hour gap that you can see I have marked out by this big box. And Nasdaq was leading by a lot. Like we were way underneath all of these lows. You see this. Yeah, all of those lows right there, we were way underneath there, all the way down here. So that's why I entered on Nasdaq. It ended up working out perfectly in my favor. Take profit 1 was the midpoint of this gap, and that was about a 1-to-1 risk to reward. Take profit 2 was the 3/4 point of this gap, and then the final take profit was the full completion of this gap. And overall, it was a really good trade. It was slightly higher risk than usual since I changed my I changed my risk around. I'm gonna start offing my trades by halves instead of thirds. So it's kind of I have to get used to that, but it was good. Everything worked out, and yeah, overall good day. Psychologically, I was way better today than I was yesterday. The reason I didn't trade yesterday was because we didn't have a liquidity sweep, but looking back on it, we had our 5-minute retrace into a fair value gap, and then we pushed higher. So this, like entering, I don't want to go on the 1 minute, but you could have seen your entry probably would have been somewhere in here yesterday, and you could have targeted whatever highs were over there. Yeah, you could have targeted these highs, or potentially you could have targeted these highs too. Yeah, you could have targeted those highs. You would have made money. That would have been your trade for yesterday. And again, the reason why I didn't trade yesterday was psychologically I just was not locked in. I was not really in a place to be taking a trade. And honestly, the setup didn't look that intriguing to me. But today we had kind of the same thing play out where we moved swiftly through an imbalance. And it was pretty good. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down below. Or message me on Instagram. I can hopefully help you guys there. And yeah, it was a good day. I hope you guys had a good day, and I'll see you guys later.